What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Pit Life BBQ podcast, coming to you live from the Uncle Steve's Shake Studios in Center Bondstead, New Hampshire. It's episode 388. Oh, guys and girls, thank you all for tuning in. Just a quick reminder, 16 shopping days left. Get those orders in. We're running out of time, and believe me, I paid for it today, boy. Woo! But thank you all for tuning in. We have an incredible conversation about to happen momentarily about with Stan Hayes, CEO of Operation Barbecue Relief, and everything that the organization does and how everything, no pun intended, gets organized. Because I can imagine it's no small feat. But before we get into that, tonight's episode brought to you by Uncle Steve's Shake. Guys and girls, everyone's favorite uncle. 19 amazing flavors. Steve always rests his morals on fresh, small batch product. If you were to place an order right now, your order will be mixed, not shipped, but mixed tomorrow, if not Wednesday. So when it arrives at your doorstep, it is the freshest possible. Steve wears all the hats. He's mixing the shakes, bottling, labeling, packaging, taking the orders. He's responding to the emails. He's responding to the phone calls. He might call you if he has a question about your order because he wants to make your shake experience the best it can be. If you have questions on the shakes easy for me to say, flavor profiles, give him a call. He'll have a conversation with you, walk you through everything. So what you're trying to cook comes out perfect. Like I said, right now, still the holidays are here. He's still running the special 3 full-size bottles of any flavor, all done out the door, $30. Or for that perfect gift, the Uncle Steve Shake gift pack, 14 sample bottles, all for $40. Customization available. If you want a certain ones in the comments, just put it there, and he'll fill the box with those. Check him out at UncleSteveShake.com. Follow along on Facebook at Uncle Steve Shake Nation. Uncle Steve Shake, shake some on everything. Also brought to you by Joe's Meat Market, the Diamond of Royce City, Texas. Oh, Gabriel and his crew do an amazing job, especially this time of year. Gabriel's shop, Joe's Meat Market, is your one-stop shop for all your holiday needs. For, your holiday meals, an incredible selection of proteins. Need a specific cut, stuff like that, he's got you covered. Are you looking for something he might not carry? He'll work with you to get it in, to make your meal what you're dreaming. Fresh produce brought in daily. And for all us comp and backyard guys, and like I said, perfect stocking stuffer ideas, Gabriel carries multiple lines, multiple seasoning, sauces, injections, marinades, including the Joe's Meat Market house line, smoky wood products, splits, chunks, chips, pellets, charcoal. He's got it all. And while you're there, if you happen to get a little rumble in the midsection, he's got you too. Gabriel's mom's behind the counter whipping up some of the freshest food out there. So grab a plate, grab a bowl, sit down with the boys, make a new friend, and talk what brings us all together. Barbecue over some food, break bread together. like I said, if you're ever in the Royce City area, swing by Joe's Meat Market and tell him I sent you. And remember, folks, Joe's Meat Market for the win. All right, let's see who is here. Daddy Dutch first in. He's here just so he doesn't get fined. Well, too late on that. The fine's already on its way, brother. Gav, what's up, brother? Tom's Food Factory. Bunch of me, Daddy Dutch, Tom. I think I saw Matt Pereira. What's happening? Jared, what's going on? Uncle Steve himself. Oh crap! I missed me. I can't blame you, Steve. I can't blame you. Uncle Steve, is Stan reading the chat to his left? Boobs. Leave it to Steve. Leave it to Steve. Oh, brother. Never a dull moment. Joe's Meat Market, Gabriel. What's happening, brother? All right, folks. I am excited for this evening. We've all heard about Operation Barbecue Relief and the tremendous, beyond tremendous things that they do in a moment's notice, especially, and it just seems to be in the forefront the past few years with the craziness that's been going on in the world, weather-wise, devastations, crazy stuff. But we're going to get into all of that and hopefully maybe get a little extra deep peek behind the curtain. So let's get into it. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome, joining me, Mr. Stan Hayes of Operation Barbecue Relief. Stan, thank you so much, brother, for taking the time to join me this busy, crazy holiday season.
Oh, you bet. I appreciate the opportunity to come in and talk and tell a little bit more of the story about Operation Barbecue Relief and what we're up to.
No, absolutely, absolutely. Now let's just kick this off. Like I had told you, I really ask one question. Please tell us a little bit about yourself. Did you grow up in barbecue? Did you grow up in a different field and just later on got into barbecue, and what led you to Operation Barbecue Relief?
Sure. Well, so I grew up in a small town in central Kansas. And, back then, I remember, my dad was always out grilling and stuff, but, he was horrible. I mean, I love him to death, but I mean, the guy would start basting, chicken, minutes after it got on the grill. I didn't know that, good chicken wasn't supposed to be black when it came off and crunchy. So, but over the years, we both learned a lot. I mean, he got to the point where he started smoking turkeys and hams, and he'd take and smoke the ham above the turkey, so it was based in the turkey, for the holidays, things like that. And that's when I started, getting interested, right, and grilling and barbecue and just doing more around live fire in general. And that was my high school days, and then in college, you were always doing some tailgate or something like that. So you're out there, grilling burgers or brats or whatever. Bunch of college kids with no money, a lot of hot dogs and stuff like that. But we were always out there grilling. But it wasn't really until I bought my first smoker, right? And thinking back, the Barbecue Brethren was really starting to boom, and where I met a lot of people in the barbecue world was the Barbecue Brethren. And when I think back on it, that's really what got me to go buy my first Bandera smoker even. And thinking, man, this is really cool. My wife and neighbors were loving it. As I was getting into it more and more. I'd been doing it off of a little Brinkman bullet smoker because I was so cheap that I wouldn't even splurge for the Weber yet. And I think I bought it used at a garage sale for like, probably less than $20, and it worked for years. Horrible to keep temperature, horrible, but you still put out some pretty good product. At least your friends thought it was, right?
Yep.
So, you know, I bought my first smoker. I was that the big one, or the bigger one, right? A Bandera smoker back then. I was living in Salt Lake City, um, got with some of the neighbors. They were bringing over game meats, and we were playing around, throughout the year, even in the middle of the winter, right? And then I moved to Texas, and I was living outside of Austin in Round Rock, Texas, and one holiday, my wife, in a card gives me, "Hey, I'm entering you in this barbecue contest." I'm like, "Oh, hold on, hold
Ooh.
on." I said, "Why don't we go to this contest that you think you want to enter me into, and so we can see this? I've never entered a contest. I don't even know what the rules are, you know." But she's like, "Oh, but you love to do this, and you do it all the time." We show up at this VFW, and like she was like, "Oh my God, thank God you didn't enter. You'd be laughed out of the place with that little smoker compared to these 500-gallon, trailered propane tanks that have been made into offsets." And that was really what spurred me, getting into, looking at it, and the brethren as well, and getting to meet people on the barbecue brethren that were in the competition world, and start talking and listening, and really looking at the rules, right? And looking at what you did, right, to figure that out. And then I had an opportunity to move to Kansas City, and moved up here to Kansas City from Round Rock. And I had met so many people on the Barbecue Brethren that were competition folks, that were KCBS in this area and everything, that just became natural to get to go out there. And eventually I was invited to basically be a pit bitch, and go out there, and not get any sleep, make sure the smoker was
Mhm.
running smoothly all night long. And I did that one time, and I called my wife after awards, because we got several calls and everything. And she's like, "Well, how was it?" I was like, "Oh, I maybe got 2 hours of sleep, 30 minutes here, an hour there, whatever, in between stuff, in between alarms, making sure everything was good." And she's like, "That sounds horrible." I was like, "It was amazing."
Yep,
She's like, "How
yep.
is that amazing?" And I said, "Look, I know I didn't get any sleep, but the people that I met, the process, getting to see the whole thing from soup to nuts, I mean, it was truly amazing." And she's like, "Okay, well, I'll see you when I get home." And I was like, "No, I still got an hour drive. You have to talk to me for the next hour so I can get home without falling asleep."
Yep.
Um, and that was it. I mean, from that first barbecue contest, I started working with that team, and being the ever loved pit bitch, and really getting into it. And from there, it just moved into, when I was ready, I started looking for my own smoker, what I was going to do, trailers and stuff. And decided, I'm going to start my own competition team, and it's going to be me and my wife and my kids. It's a way that we can do stuff together, but I can go out and do this hobby. And that started. I mean, I launched that team in the spring of 2011, and 2 months later, a couple weeks before the first competition that I ever entered, the Joplin tornado happened. And at that
Uh-huh.
point, you know, um, as I tell everybody, this was all my wife's idea. I mean, the morning after the Joplin tornado, my wife looked at me and was like, "You need to go." And that was a Monday morning, and I was running out of the house, literally, with my hair on fire, because I was a little late. And I was like, "Yeah, I got to get going to work." And she's like, "No, idiot, you should get the barbecue guys that you compete with to come together and just cook for the community." And I tell people, I looked at her probably like she had three heads or something. Like, what? Jumped, grabbed my coat, ran out the door, whatever, my backpack, and started heading to my office, and made it about 10 minutes down the road. And it really hit me what she was saying, made a whole lot of sense. Who better than a bunch of competition barbecue guys that go set up in a parking lot with minimal needs to go
Mhm.
out and just cook for a community, right? And so I called the guy who got me into competition barbecue. And I said, "Hey, Jeff, what do you think?" And before I could finish my sentence, he's like, "Man, I was trying to think of something, but this is a great idea." And it was about a 10-minute, 15-minute phone call. We hatched a plan of how we could get the barbecue world together to go to Joplin and just feed people. That was, I mean, no big, no big idea. I mean, just do what we do all the time. But instead of competing against one another, just come together and see what we could do to feed a community. Figure we'd be there for 3 or 4 days, maybe a couple thousand meals. Feel good that we helped out, and go home. And that didn't happen. We went down there and ended up spending 12 days cooking and served over 120,000 meals in a parking lot,
Yeah.
mostly off of competition smokers. And um, from there, I mean, most people that were there on site saw it and were in part of it, realized that what we were doing was something different than anybody had ever done. I mean, you had groups coming in, some of the big box nonprofits coming in, going, "How are you guys doing this? Where are you getting the food? How are you?" And we were just producing. There was no bureaucratic BS. There was none of this. It was just people out there doing that. But what we realized is there was a gap. And the gap that existed was the time a disaster happens to the time good, nourishing food gets to people. Something that they can, truly sit there and look back at and say, "Man, while I was eating that pulled pork sandwich, I could think of myself having another one of the block parties. After we rebuild, I could see us having family back over here." And so it was a little bit of normalcy in that chaos that we were giving people, and that's where it started. From there, we left the parking lot and decided, "Hey, we're going to turn this into a nonprofit." So my little backyard addiction of grilling and barbecue and smoke and fire turned into wanting to get into competition, which then turned into this whole nonprofit side of things. And I never ever thought I'd be in a nonprofit job. I was in a I was in insurance, in the corporate world. I was on the corporate side of insurance, and started there right out of college. I'd been climbing the ladder and thought that was where I wanted to be. And those days in Joplin quickly showed me differently. Quickly showed me that that wasn't what I was supposed to do. It still took me several years. It took me to 7 more years before I could get to that point of leaving the corporate world and going and doing what became my passion. And I tell everybody, from that day, I haven't had a Monday. And I think it's, my team has grown from me to, I think we just hired the 34th person, at the organization. I think it's like 30 full time and, 4 part time, people out there. And we have been virtual before virtual was cool, I guess.
Yeah.
There is, we have some warehousing that have little offices in there, but no one really, it's not a place that people go to, like an office to work. We expect you to work from home. We expect you to get your job done. And if you're doing it from the beach, if you're doing it from a competition, if you're doing it from whatever, that's fine as long as you're getting the job done.
Wow. Wow. So this all stems from your wife,
Oh
man.
yeah. You,
It,
you,
it,
I learned though, you can't use that against her after so many years that, hey, this was your fault that I got to travel, 2 weeks before Christmas or something like that. It doesn't work.
true, true, absolutely, absolutely. Simon, what's happening? Steaks Kitchen Barbecue, what's up, brother? Thank you for tuning in, man. Uncle Steve was asking, I guess it was when you were talking about that first competition, would it happen to have been Cedar Park?
No, it was Round Rock VFW, and it was, I don't know, less than 3 miles from my house. And my wife had seen, like, they had a big, basically, 4x4 sheet of plywood sitting out front, VSW barbecue contest, enter here, enter at this, and with a email address that you could email them, or you could stop in the VFW to get the information, right? And so that's what my wife did. She just saw that sign and was like, "Hey, I'm gonna I'm gonna enter him." And thank God she didn't enter me. She just pulled the information because that would have been disastrous.
Yeah, no, no, and it's funny you bring up the old Brinkman bullet smoker. My original was a Brinkman bullet smoker. I was working I was working part-time at the Marriott in Burlington, Massachusetts, bartending. And apparently I didn't know we had this point system of, if sick days or whatever. And next thing you know, I had to cash in all these points or else I was going to lose them. So I got a big Craftsman 3-tier toolbox and a Brinkman bullet smoker. And that Brinkman smoker is still in the back corner of my shed right now, but I still have it. I can't get rid of it. Like you said, if you can run a Brinkman bullet smoker, you can run anything,
Pretty much.
because you can't, because that wonderful door they give you to access the charcoal and all that is about, yay big, a coaster,
Right?
right? You can barely fit. I was there with a pair of tongs
Oh
going
yeah.
one piece of charcoal at a time out of the chimney that was lit just to
Oh,
keep the thing filled up. I had a metal turkey baster, so I could fill the water pan up above it. It was, if
I
you can
I
run a
ended up
Brinkman bullet.
I ended up taking an old plant water, like I don't know where I got it, or maybe it was one with a big old long spout that I could get up in there just enough, because that you had about that much room, and then you had just about this much room below it at an angle to get that charcoal back in there. Yeah, it was. Yeah, there was nothing really fancy at all about that smoker for sure.
Yep, in Sig's kitchen, he goes, that was his first smoker too. Still has it to this day. And then Uncle Steve, the best cheeseburger I've ever had was in Wellington, Kansas, the Commodore. You ever familiar with that? Or
I know where Wellington is, but I'm not familiar with the Commodore there. So, but look, there, it, traveling through Kansas growing up, there were so many amazing little greasy spoon type places that had some of the best food that
Mhm.
you've ever had. And um, there's countless places, I mean, across the country, as I've got to travel, because when the kids were little, one of the rules was, no, we're not stopping at McDonald's, we're not stopping at Subway, we're not stopping at these places. We're going to eat local. We're not eating chain places. And um, and it was one of the best parts of it, because the kids got to experience new things and try new things,
Mhm.
and even when they're like, this isn't as good as the chicken nuggets at McDonald's or whatever it was back then, it was still, hey, they tried something different. And so
Yeah.
yeah, you know that's the to me, that's the best part about it, is getting off the highway, finding that place that's packed, that is good. um, and we have some of those as you travel from Kansas City down to the lake, where one of our biggest programs going on right now is our camp that we have down at the Lake of the Ozarks, that we do out, and along the way there, depending on which way you go through a little town, and both of them have, little roadside burger stand, Shake Shack places, and they're both amazing. Like, you can get the tenderloin the size of your head, and things like that at both of them. So yeah.
Nice, nice. Now, before we get into how Operation Barbecue Relief kind of took off, expanded, and worked its way up to what it is today, let's just go back
Hmm?
to about 2 weeks ago. I'm thinking it could have been sooner than that. Um, but you guys did I don't know, an event Thanksgiving dinner with a collaboration with Tracy Lawrence in the
Yep.
Hickory Soup Kitchen in North Carolina and Tennessee. You folks serve 13,440 Thanksgiving dinner meals. Now, is that an annual thing, or
So
not necessarily a relief effort,
yeah,
if you will, by the, I guess, definition?
sure. Yeah, so that was something we started years ago. Is around the holidays we feel that you know the homeless or those that are that are living on the edge, so to speak, of not do they buy a Thanksgiving dinner or do they pay for rent, heat, whatever it is? And so it was how can we give back around the holidays and it doesn't have to be a disaster. And so we started doing that. Our very first one was our first year here in Kansas City. The family that had done the Christmas dinner for the City Union Mission, which is the largest mission in a four-state area around here, around Kansas City. That family had done it for years and had family emergency, and they had to back out the week of Christmas. I happened to see it. I happened to put a call out to people, said, "Hey, what do you think?" And they said, "Yeah, I'd do it. I'd help. I'd help." So I called down there, somehow got to the right person. They're like, you guys will come in. Went to Sam's Club, I think it was, and we had a good relationship with them, and they donated, I don't know how many turkeys for the event, and went to these different places and just started getting stuff donated, from the potatoes to the green beans to all of this, because I mean, we didn't even have our, 501c3 designation at the time. So people making donations to us, they would be doing it without getting a tax write-off or anything.
Yeah.
And we did have some people that do that, right? But it was all about giving back. And so we've continued that and it's getting bigger. I mean, on there that the one that didn't get listed this year was, Memphis. John Wheeler down in Memphis has been doing, an event down there for before us, but incorporated us into it when he became a volunteer with us. And so now the Tracy Lawrence one's new, but we've helped his foundation almost double what they can do, because they fried like, I don't know, 1,400 turkeys this year, 1,300 turkeys. And it's a fundraiser, because companies pay for their people to come out there and work the turkey fryers. And so
Okay.
there's all these rows of company A, company B, and they're lined up with so many with so many pots and the fryers going. And we came in and I think we did almost, I think it was just shy of 12,000 or 1,200 turkeys that we smoked. Did two turns and had about, I think we had 7 smokers there. Big Old Hickory LED X's, and then we have Smokezilla. If you guys haven't seen it, you should go. There's some video of Smokezilla out there, because Smokezilla is about the size of 3 LED X's,
Oh,
um,
wow.
and it sits there. We put it on um, a hydraulic trailer, so it lowers to the ground, so people didn't have to step up, you know,
Yep.
uh, on this, and bought that trailer so we could bring it to the ground. I took it to a big Super Bowl party last year in New Orleans for it, and it was one hell of an attraction, because I mean, it probably, when it's sitting on that trailer, is about, well, the little bit of the stack that sticks up above there is about 2 inches below the legal limit. So it's about 13.2, 13.3, just sitting there going down the road.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. Um, another one in the, very recent past, and this is a question from one of our listeners, Braden. Uh, he was asking about, the number of pounds of food you guys had done in Jamaica. But we'll spin with that of get into, I guess, I don't know, is it the analytics the right word? I'm not sure. What goes in to organizing a trip, humanity trip to Jamaica to feed the masses after that hurricane?
Yeah.
Now, are we talking flying things over? Could you even land a plane? Is
Yeah.
it shipping over? And what type of infrastructure, that's the word, is needed to pull this off? Because almost the entire country was devastated, and
Yeah.
you guys were ready to go.
Yeah, first it's the years of doing this and being recognized for solving problems. We don't just serve food; we solve problems on how to do this. We send a lot more than food over there. We help diapers, we help generators, we help get a lot of different things there, and it's really because of great partnerships. I mean, when you have companies like Amazon, that is like literally we were putting together shelf stable food boxes. We did not cook anything for Jamaica. We actually put together food stable meals because that's what
Oh,
the minister of health said. Please don't come here. Please don't send hot meals, because what's happening is people are taking those hot meals and then they're trying to take them across, the country. What would normally be a 2 or 3 hour drive, that's taking 6 to 8 hours. And you and I, all of us know that there's no way they could keep it hot.
keep it hot.
And so
Yeah.
the minister of health was terrified of foodborne illness and people getting sick, because people would have eaten it anyway because they were so hungry.
So
And
yeah.
so we already had a bunch of breakfast meals that we had used after Hurricane Milton last year. And we still had a couple of pallets of those. And we were telling them about it. And they're like, send those. And then, anything more that you can do. And so we went through. I mean, I had no idea that Jamaicans have things like mackerel, canned salmon, uh, tuna to sardines are things that are in their diet, you know? And so we were sending, sardines, canned chicken, canned everything pop top, right?
Hmm.
So they didn't have to try to see, God, do I even have a can opener, right? Um,
Yeah.
and then we were sending snack bars and breakfast bars and cereal and powdered milk and all of these things. I think our first load actually included like 6 pallets of water that went over. The minute, and initially everything had to be shipped into Kingston, because
Okay.
Kingston was the bigger airport that was open, that had the infrastructure to be able to take those big items off of planes.
Got
Um,
it.
then we got smaller planes where we are hand loading boxes. And what we were doing is we were putting, for an average family of four, we were giving them 3 days worth of meals in a box. So that kept people from having to go out looking for it. I just saw today on Google alerts a picture of one of our boxes that just made it across the country in Jamaica to one of the rural parts that has been pretty much untouched. And it was there by a bunch of health aid workers that we connected with. One of the things the most beautiful thing about this response to Jamaica is how the other nonprofits jumped in together to say how we can solve problems. Like, we're like, we can get this there. And this group was going to be on the ground. And they're like, hey, we can help receive these meals and then get them here. And then we were connected to this health group and this different group over here. And then we were like, okay, you can go to this location, pick up these meals from this group to then get them out there. I got a picture from one of my guys yesterday, and it was a picture of 100-year-old man who has been living in what's left of his house underneath just a little makeshift roof that he'd made. Hadn't seen anybody since the hurricane. This was over the weekend, and he had been eating anything he could find that was still around there. And this health aid worker showed up, and she's like, "I got you," and came in with one of our boxes of food. Now, this was just 100-year-old man by himself. Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
If I'm 100 years old, if I know what my name is, I'm going to be really happy, let alone last multiple weeks in a very
Multiple
rural
weeks.
area.
And build a roof.
Right?
The physicality of wow.
So when you hear those things and then you get that picture back from that aid worker that says, "Hey, I wanted you to see the impact of what you guys are doing." That's when we knew that, hey, we can respond without ever having to go. And one of the biggest things is we know if we went there, we'd make an impact, right? But we would never get our equipment back.
Yeah.
You ship stuff in there, it's not coming back. I mean, everybody will tell you, that's the reason we didn't go to Puerto Rico years ago after the Hurricane Maria, I think it was. It's because there was no way any of the stuff was going to come back. And today we have different abilities, and these food stable, shelf stable meals are going to be something that you see more of. You're gonna see us doing them for breakfast. I mean, we're not good at
Yeah.
cooking a hot breakfast, but if we can at dinner hand out a breakfast meal for the next morning to people, that just gives them an extra little bit that they can serve their kids. They can serve themselves.
No, that's unbelievable. That's unbelievable. Demoose Barbecue, what's up, brother? Oh, brother Steven coming to us live from Trinidad and Tobago. Steven, I bet you it's a little warmer there than it is here in central New Hampshire right now. I think we're in a balmy 7 the last time I looked at it. I think you might have probably an 8 or 9 before that 7, but but hey, it's December in New England. What do you expect? Oh, so excuse me. That's interesting. The pre-made boxes. Now, with say something here in the state,
Yep.
and how would you organize? Okay. Like I said, the world's been crazy lately, so unfortunately, we have examples.
Oh yeah.
Go back a few months. Well, I think it's a few months now. Time flies. But for instance, the wildfires in the Palisades of California.
Yep.
Now, is that something you guys get involved with, or is that a little different because there is an evacuation process and they're still displaced, but they're
It's
somewhat
much.
taken
Yeah.
care of?
Yeah. So the Palisades and Altadena fire, the two fires that were going on, we were there. We were at fire base camp for the Palisades fire in Malibu. So we were mainly cooking for first responders. So the number of National Guard that were sitting there at checkpoints along the way to keep people out, to keep looting down and everything else,
Mhm.
those guys, you'd pull up, there'd be a pallet of MREs just sitting there. That's what they were expected to eat, you know? And again, there's a time and a place for all of those things. But if we could give them a hot meal, we were going to give them a hot meal. So we were getting police escorts into the areas so we could give the guardsmen. We were giving the police. We were giving the firemen, meals. We were at the fire base camp, so we were helping give meals out. We teamed up once again, like we have on previous disasters with Guy Fieri and his foundation, cooking at fire base camp. And then we had a kitchen that was given to us by the Palladium in West Hollywood, where we were cooking food out of their kitchen, and that food was going to first responder, because you had so many firehouses that were so short on people that they didn't get time off because they had so many people over here working the Palisade fires that they still had to stay on for anything that was happening in the rest of the.
Local. Yeah.
And then you had the Altadena, Pasadena area that we were taking food over to. But it quickly, the large relief centers quickly dissipated and people were quickly put into housing. But some of that housing was hotels 2 hours away from where they lived because of finding, places for them to stay. And so it was heavy, but that single-handedly was the most expensive disaster that we did, with Jamaica probably being right there with it, because you think about the shelf stable food is more expensive than fresh food.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at it per serving, it's more expensive. So, the cost of being in California and then the cost of Jamaica, both of those were two disasters that cost a lot more than, let's say, when you're cooking hot, fresh meals in Florida after a hurricane. But, I was looking at stats today, and I can actually spout off some of them here. Because during Jamaica, we actually provided our 13 millionth meal since we've been an organization.
Wow.
And so, it's, we've been in 42 states plus the Bahamas plus Jamaica now. So 2 international deployments. We so far this year, we've had 1,024 unique volunteers. Now, some of those unique volunteers have volunteered for 10, 12 days, probably easily this year already as volunteers. And that equated to over 32,000 volunteer hours this year from those just over 1,024 people.
Wow.
So, this year is one of our lightest years in the last 10 years almost. We've only served just over 366,000 meals this year, and which is a lot of food. But I mean, we served more than that in Florida, after Hurricane Milton just by itself,
Mm-hmm.
let alone. I mean, we did 1.5 million meals last year.
Wow.
So five times that amount. So this year, being blessed and not having we had one of the worst hurricane seasons. It just didn't hit the country. They all went out to sea or hit someplace like Jamaica.
No, okay. Now, how am I going to do this? Because God knows the way my luck goes sometimes, I honestly think I can speak some things into existence. So let's just say we had an incident at a area of this country, and you guys would head out. Now, obviously, your infrastructure isn't all based, or at least I'm assuming, isn't all, and it probably can't be all based out of Missouri. So
Correct.
you have, I don't know, are they representatives, captains, if you will, positioned throughout the country, or a couple per state even?
Yeah, depending on the size of the state and the activity in the state, we have area coordinators. And so these are engaged volunteers that have basically said, I would like to do this job, which is, they're our local eyes and ears. They're our local cheerleader. They're the one that says, hey, we have this in the community and I think we could do some good here. And so we look at, all right, that's the beginning, right? Unless it's something major like a Hurricane Milton, where we know we're going, we're gonna take a step, take a second to look at what the need is, and then determine what's the best course of action. If the best course of action is taking money and getting it to that area coordinator to get with other barbecue teams in the area to go buy the food and do that, we'll do that versus, spending thousands of dollars in diesel fuel to be pulling trucks and trailers, up to the area. But if it, like you said, we're not based just in one area. I mean, Kansas City's home base, but we actually have a little equipment here. Our main cache of equipment is in East Tennessee, because I can be running up and down the eastern seaboard, and I can be going into the Gulf Coast, because from there I'm a day's drive down to Florida, going across into the Gulf area. And then I have equipment in Kansas City. I have equipment in Dallas. And then I also have one trailer out in the West Coast right now. I had several on the West Coast, but a couple of them were used like once or twice a year. And last year with Hurricane Milton, we had to pull every piece of equipment we could, because we had Milton going, and Helene at the same time. We had East Tennessee. We were cooking out of our warehouse in East Tennessee and shuffling meals into the western slope of Asheville that were cut off. And then we were in the Asheville area. We were in Georgia, and then we were in multiple locations in Florida.
And he's Daddy Dutch here. Let's see. I about wore my drums out 16 months ago with all the flooding we had. He's out of Lamaze, Iowa, and they had those big flooding year and a half ago. And yeah, he was just cooking and cooking and cooking, and so let's say I was an area head out here in New England.
Yep.
And God forbid, like I said, I don't want to speak anything into existence. My damn luck. Something happened. Now we're gonna respond, set something up with local cooks from the area.
Yep.
Now, obviously, you said if you send what you need to me in that point to go get food and everything. The volunteers for this area basically bring in all their personal equipment. If they volunteer, they're kind of I'm bringing my rig, I'm bringing my setup, and we run.
It depends on the level, right? We break this down into 3 levels. A level 1 is very much of a local event where you're going to do, you might be doing 1,500 meals a day, right? Between lunch and dinner, and you're going to need several smokers for it. But it's much better to put the money into to put in the community than to truck it up from the Tennessee warehouse. Let's say.
Yeah. Okay.
We get to a level 2. Now, level 2 might be, hey, we're going to do 3,000 or 4,000 meals a day. Now it might be where we're gonna load up a truck and and pull an ELEDX all hickory smoker that can do 80 pork butts at a time. Gives you 2,000 pulled pork sandwiches one turn type thing. We may get that or the double that has 2 of them on there and bring that up with supplies. We may also look at who's in the area. We may have a supplier or somebody we worked with there that's donated a product. So we would be going out, and what we would do is we would try to help source it as much as possible in that level. Once it gets above that and we get to a level 3, that means I'm going to start rolling big equipment. I'm going to start rolling semi trucks of product there. I'm going to have freezer trucks coming in with the product. I'm going to have the trucks loaded with number 10 cans, tilt skillets, smokers, and we're going to bring that in, and we're going to set up a much bigger response because of what the need appears to be. And during that, we're going to help with everything from finding going in our database and seeing who's registered as a volunteer in that area. And even if they haven't done anything for years, we're going to contact them to try to re-engage them and everything. I know I'm trying to think. Bruce Josie is up in the Delaware area. He's our regional director for that area, I believe, up there. And I'll
Okay.
see Bruce. I'll see Bruce this weekend. We're doing the Army Navy a tailgate before the Army Navy football game in Baltimore.
Okay.
So I'll be down there cooking, and Bruce is coming in and helping with that. So I'll talk with him about that though, and connect you guys.
Yeah.
So
No, absolutely, absolutely. Now you were speaking of tiers.
yep,
Now, what is I suppose I don't want to say criteria because I don't want it to come that it has to, meet a certain
yeah,
standard, but how are the tiers broken up in, or how do you define, I guess,
yeah.
each
That
tier?
it's a great question. It's about need, right? You know, there's times that disasters happen and we're not needed because the local restaurants, churches, civic groups, are out there already because, maybe it was a residential area, but the commercial areas are all open. So you got barbecue restaurants or restaurants just in general that are opening up their doors and feeding people. You have civic groups. There's a lot of civic groups that that do barbecue, really more grilling, right? But they have and
Hmm.
do things, and so one of the things that we realize is if we come into an area and we're not needed, all we're doing is pulling resources and people away from helping the community. And the community doesn't really heal while a bunch of guys like us from Kansas City or wherever we're from come in there to help the community, because really what we're doing is we're not giving them a chance to take care of themselves. So it's taken a while for us to say, oh, okay, you don't need us, and that's we understand, that's good. What can we do to support you? But when there becomes a defined need, saying, hey, I know where this church has couple hundred people staying in it right now as a relief site, and no one's coming, and there's Red Cross is there, but they don't have any food. They're bringing coffee and danishes and everything. Is there a way? And that's when we come in. And that's when the area coordinator says, talks to that church, talks to the people, and they're like, oh, absolutely, we could use a few hundred meals a day or twice a day type of a thing. And that's when we can come in, and usually when that happens, we're working with the local team on the ground to answer their questions, their concerns. Hey, how much do you think we're going to need to cook? I've got people on staff that can sit there and say, hey, I know most of us know the basics of how many pork butts are going to feed. You need 300. You got to do 300 people. You need 12 pork butts at the least. So just doing the math, it becomes really a math equation a lot of the time too. Like I said, we become we're more of a logistics organization and problem solving organization than we are a a feeding organization in many ways.
Okay, interesting. Interesting. Now, Daddy Dutch is asking, how does one volunteer? Now, is that's a sign up thing through
Yeah.
like the website and
So there's two ways. The best way to do it is if you've got your iPhone or your Android, is go to the App Store and just type in OBR volunteer and download the app and follow the process. So we do a background check. We have documents that you have to sign just, for our sake, and safety, for people, right? We're way past the day of being able just to have anybody come off the street. When we have corporate volunteers and we have sponsors and we have groups out there, we've got to, you can't, you're one bad apple away from being an organization that's spotlighted on some TV show that you don't want to be on these days. So
yeah.
that's the best way, because you can turn on push notifications. So like when I'm coming, if I'm coming to Baltimore and you're in the Baltimore area and you're like, man, I would have loved to have volunteered for the Army Navy game, right? Those kind of things is because this year we'll do probably close to 120 non-disaster events just like the one you were talking about with Tracy Lawrence or the
Yeah.
Hickory Soup Kitchen. So that's on top of the 13. How many disasters do we do this year? 13. Yeah. So, I mean, with that many disasters, that many disasters. Now, these events are generally a 1 day event, right? Like,
Mhm.
they're one and done. But we'll be doing more. Some of these events that we do, like last year, we did 28 different 28 different cities, like 40 some different firehouses in 28 different communities. Um, Across the country, and I want to say it was 12 or 13 different states, and we did that for International Firefighters, Day, and it's just to say thank you, thank you to the people that run into the burning building when we're out there, you
Yeah.
know, watching, right, and so those are other events that we do, and when you sign up and you register, you get to see that calendar of events, and you get to see those new events as they come on. We try our best to get them out there about 60 days in advance, but that doesn't always work.
Yeah. Interesting, interesting. Now something like the Army Navy game.
Yep.
Now, obviously that's it's an event, a give back. Now is there a fundraising aspect for the organization to, build up funds in the war chest, so to speak, for the
Yeah.
next unfortunate thing to come?
Yeah, many of them there are. The Army Navy is a different one. We teamed up with two other nonprofits, and they really do all the heavy lifting. All we do is come in and cook some pulled pork sandwiches, right?
Mhm.
Um, so the Mac Parkman Foundation is the leader on this, and they're doing amazing work in CTE and brain, you know, and studies and what we do outside of disasters, we focus as much as we can on our first responders and veterans and active military, their families, and that's what our volunteers have told us they want to do. And so when we're not active in disasters, that's what we try to focus on. So a lot of our events are going to be circled around those, except for those ones like the Hickory Soup Kitchen or that
Okay.
around the holidays. So now you can go to the website and register as a volunteer and do it that way. You just don't get the push notifications and all the little stuff. You have to go in there and routinely check the website if you go and register from the website. You can still download the app later. Some people just like being able to type on a keyboard versus the screen.
Yeah.
But you can download the app and just, you know, also have that later. But that's,
Okay.
um, but yeah, the Army Navy is a little bit different, but a lot of our events, we're trying to raise money for the next disaster, for the next event. You'll find, I've told my social media team and marketing folks that we've done a really poor job of telling you guys about all these non-disaster events. I mean, it's just like we have a camp on 190 acres on the Lake of the Ozarks that we bring in veterans, first responders, their families of the fallen, and we use culinary therapy. They'll go through a 5 day, 5 days in the woods of the Ozarks on Lake of the Ozarks, and we'll do a cooking class every day, and then we'll do outdoor adventure every day. So whether it's, getting on the ATVs and getting a trail ride through the property, or hiking a couple mile hike along, in the woods, to getting on the pontoon boat and doing a sunset cruise. It's a lot of interaction, bringing people together. One of the things that I think we all can agree about that are here, food is the greatest unifier in the world. It's brought all of us together in
Oh yeah.
barbecue, but it brings everybody together. And the culinary therapy is proven to be just as effective as music and art therapy, in the way it affects the brain and the way it helps self-soothe and gives it gives them also a new group, right? when somebody's left, has retired from the military, or retired from being a first responder, they lose a little bit of that camaraderie, that brotherhood, or sisterhood. And when they get to start grilling and barbecue, right, you start getting that brotherhood back. It's just a little different.
Yeah. No,
So
absolutely, absolutely. It's this and I love how you say, culinary therapy. Because we've all been there in one way, shape, or form. I've told it many a times of when I started all of my journey with barbecue and getting in with barbecue. It was back in early 2018, and I was just getting into it, and I lost my mother, and my wife sent me down to the butcher shop and goes, "Here, get what you need to get, and you sit here until you're fixed, until you're back to." She just knew I was lost,
yeah,
and I sat out in my front yard for 2 days and went, "Okay, I'm good." I
yeah,
don't know what the hell happened out there, but it was just, that concentration on working the fire and work a seasoning or, whatever. It was just, see, there was no injections or
yeah,
anything like that. It was rub it, run it, and don't ruin it. But
yeah,
you just had those moments of sitting there with a load of charcoal, or your next 45 minutes or so before you throw another split, and you have that reflection time, while you're cooking a 12-hour brisket. You got some time on your hands. But no, I love how you said that culinary therapy, because there is something to it. There is something to it for sure.
yeah.
Um,
And someday I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, but I keep saying it, and no one's, the difference between art, music, and culinary therapy. They all do the same thing as far as the way it impacts the brain, impacts you know, um, whether it's that the thinking side as you're following a recipe versus the creative side of the brain. When now you're getting into, how do I want to season this? Do I want a little sweet heat today? Do I want savory? How do I want this to taste? Right, as you're going through that whole thought process. But the one difference between that culinary has over the other two is, at the end of the day, everybody has to eat. So it does become life skills on top of the fact that it is good for the body, good for the soul in
mhm.
what you're doing.
Yeah, and like you said, it's all intertwined. The three of them for sure. And like what we do with barbecue, whether it's in our backyard or a competition. Okay, we're cooking. That's okay. There's that aspect, that mental aspect. What's in the background at every site you have? You got tunes going.
Oh
So the
yeah.
music's there. You got hell. I started a pod pit life cook off playlist on Spotify, and and it's I'm having guests. Drop after the show. Drop me 3 songs, and I put them on the playlist. And then the art aspect is our plate presentation, our box turn in
Absolutely.
presentation. It
And
there all those three are in
I mean,
absolutely entwined, Stan.
as I think back, to my competition days, which, what I miss is this right here. The camaraderie, the people. I don't miss having to get ready. I don't miss having to clean what I didn't clean last time. All of that. But you know, I think about, oh my God, what did I do wrong here? Now my sauce is gloppy on my chicken as I'm getting as I'm dipping my chicken, getting ready to put it in the box, right? And setting that glaze, whatever it is that you know. And so it absolutely is our way of art, right? I mean, hell, I mean, you get into you can get into parsley boxes versus you know lettuce boxes and everything else today,
Oh yeah.
and all of that is an art, you know.
No, absolutely, absolutely. But yeah, no, absolutely. All those three totally intertwine in it all. Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. Um, now, Stin, how can if where can people go to I guess, obviously go to the sites and go to the app to, sign up to volunteer. But if people just want to donate, I suppose anything, obviously the first thing you hear about donation is, is money, and I
Sure.
did, around my birthday, Facebook gives you that option to run
Yeah.
a fundraiser at the time. And I went, well, okay, Operation Barbecue Relief. That's a no brainer for me,
Yeah.
and, ran that for however, I don't even know how long they run it, maybe a week or two or in and around your birthday time,
Yep.
and that goes to you. Now, can people obviously donate monetarily, but animately, like you said, diapers,
Yeah.
formula, band-aid, things like that. Can they donate that too?
So we don't know warehouse those things. It's those kind of things are at the time of a disaster, because we warehouse about you know like number 10 cans of vegetables and things like that. We warehouse about 350,000 servings
Okay.
of that. We warehouse about 400,000 servings of protein right now in freezer warehouse space. So we already have a lot of stuff, but there might be, we've had people donate equipment. We've had people that work for companies that companies are looking at how they could sponsor. Thinking about Uncle Steve's Shake there, hell, we have a whole wall at the camp where the people that are there get to go over there and pick what rub they want to use, and then generally we give a rub away. Like we'll say, hey, take this unopened bottle with you, if and we tell everybody to take a rub with them when they leave. So we get people that want to donate for that. We get people that heck, I've had kayaks donated. I've had stuff for the camp donated that they have items. So there is really the best thing to do is ask. Hey, I like I had somebody that was like, hey, I want to donate this truck. It didn't end up working out, and it was probably a good thing for us,
Yeah.
that it didn't work out. But there's all kinds of things that it could be, and then we tell everybody, hey, check out what your companies do. If you work for a company, there's a lot of companies that will match your volunteer hours or match your donation that you make to a nonprofit. And we're registered with, I mean, we're registered with so many different organizations that do those kind of things to double a donation and stuff through them. So there's a lot of different ways that people can help. But
Okay.
one of the biggest ways is a lot of times just sharing our social media to say, hey, I support these guys, you should too, to your natural market. I mean, really, that's how we grew. That's how we started, was
Mhm.
a bunch of barbecue guys telling their friends and family, hey, I'm going out and going doing this. We can use some money. We can use some of this. We can use barbecue sauce. We can use whatever it is.
Fantastic. Fantastic. As simple as that. Hitting a share button. That's
Mhm.
and you're doing wonders just on a flick of a finger. That's amazing. That's amazing. But, like I said, Stan, thank you so much for your time. This has been a hell of a tremendous conversation
Uh,
and
I've
a
loved it.
great insight to, what Operation Barbecue does, how it operates, how it, like you said with Jamaica, with the food boxes, the dry stuff, completely different than what you would, quote unquote, think. But like I said, thank you for all the information. Thank you for your
You know,
time, and most importantly, thank you for what you and the organization do in the
thank you.
times of needs. You're there. You're there to help.
Well, thank you. You know, if everybody could go, check out obr.org, go to the programs area, look at what we do. We just we just updated the site, so when you click on our impact, it talks about our disaster response, our camp, our always serving project, which is what, the events, those 100, of those 120 events last year, the majority of them are what we call our always serving project. And that's really because we're highlighting those heroes that always serve their communities and serve their country.
Beautiful, beautiful, brother. Um, what are all the website, all the
Yeah,
handles for the different social
sure.
media platforms
Yep.
for
So
everything?
handle is the same on every social media platform. OP BBQ Relief. Op BBQ Relief is the handle for Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok. And then LinkedIn's a little bit different. It's better to just search out Operation Barbecue Relief on LinkedIn underneath the pages, because it's a big long URL over there. And then obr.org is the website. Just simple obr.org. You can it'll redirect you to operationbarbecuerelief.org, but that way you don't have to type in and misspell relief or something like that when like some of us do
No,
every once in a while.
absolutely, absolutely. I had to triple and quadruple check myself. Okay, is it the I before E? Is there a C? No. Okay, we're good. I'm going back to second grade stuff,
I was, I
learning how to
was like, you're going
spell.
back to grade school trying to remember.
Yep.
I before E, except F. Yeah,
Right.
no.
There's no
Uh,
C there. I think I'm good, but hey, honey, spell relief real quick. And she questions it. I'm like, okay, next, my daughter. It's like, okay,
see,
all right, we
yeah,
we got we got three
I
out of
don't even
four.
ask
We're
my
good.
family. I just go to Siri or just type it into Google because
Thank God for spell check, right? Oh,
absolutely.
but man, Stan, like I said, thank you so much for your time. This has been an absolute honor and a pleasure. And
Pleasure.
there's anything I can do, you let me know.
Absolutely.
You guys need me, to come on and talk about stuff going on. Just shoot me a message, send me a call, anything, and we'll get it done because as a barbecue family, we all say we're all in this together. So,
Absolutely.
one person needs help, we all come running. So let's keep that
Well,
true.
thank you guys, and I hope everybody has a great Christmas, happy holidays out there, safe holidays. As it's coming up, like I said, this is my last business trip. I leave out tomorrow, and get home Sunday after the tailgate at the Army Navy game.
Mm.
It'll be my fourth year of doing this. I've only gone to the game once. The first year I did the tailgate, I got tickets to the game, and I will tell you, if you've never been to the game, there's something extremely magical. I mean, it's some really horrible football most of the time, but
Yep.
it's a magical place to be, and atmosphere. I've never seen anything like it. But no, I hope everybody that's listening has a great holiday season, and appreciate just you guys, the support and everything from y'all.
No, absolutely, brother. Absolutely. But yeah, hang on one second. Let me close this out. I'll jump right back with you.
No worries.
Um, what an interview, folks. What an interview. Great look inside Operation Barbecue Relief. And like you said, folks, you want to volunteer, get the app, uh, OBR volunteer in the app stores, or um, I guess Android, the same thing. Get the app and you can sign up and fill everything out right there. Obviously, follow around all the social medias. Share the social media posts. Get the word out there of what we all do and what it stands for. Um, Tremendous, tremendous. Thank you all for tuning in. Uh, Catch the video on Facebook and YouTube. On YouTube, hit that subscribe button. You have all the episodes right there. And like I say every week, it's very important because Facebook is starting to delete after all the lives after 30 days. But on YouTube, they're all there. Under the live column, you have all the episodes right at your fingertips. Go back and look at old ones. I sometimes might prefer you don't go to the really early ones, but I guess I truly haven't gotten that much better in the 7 years of doing this. But yeah, on audio end, all the podcast catchers, Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Stitcher, anywhere you can find an audio podcast, you'll find the audio file there. Questions and comments, please send them to pitlifebbqpodcast@gmail.com. Like always, subscribe, like, rate, and review. Hit that share button. Next week, okay, guys, and you all know, next week is up in the air. As far as a live show goes, obviously everyone knows I'm a mailman full time, and I'm burning it at both ends right now. So I will possibly know better by the end of this week to, I guess, judge the daily loads coming in and out. But keep an eye out on the weekend. If I know I can't do Monday, I'll work with something, get something recorded, or either recorded or live on Sunday, just to bring you guys so we don't miss thing. I hate missing dates with you guys. I just want to bring you interviews, stories, contract, everything. So yeah, keep an eye out. I will post the latest updates by the end of the week. But thank you all for tuning in. And until next week, keep the smoke rolling.